morning. Good morning. Good morning. We're going to get right into it this morning. We're going to jump right into eFund Insurance core values. They are on our website. And I've encouraged you to read them, work with them, but I'm going to break them down. How did they come about? Where did they come from? It's they have been the foundation of eFund Insurance and training and teaching and developing salespeople. These core values, and I'll just read from the website. Since its inception, eFund Insurance has been governed by its 8 core values. They guide how we behave and make decisions every single moment. The following list of core values reflect what is truly important to us as an organization. These are not values that change from time to time, situation to situation, or person to person, but rather they are the underpinning of our company culture. So attitude is everything. And so this core value came about because of my experience, and also I started the company with Vincenzo Spampanato, his experience in sales. And I learned very early on that if I didn't have a positive attitude, if I didn't always see the bright side of every situation, it can make sales very demoralizing and very depressing. And your moves can go up and down like a roller coaster. And so my attitude was the only thing that I had complete control over. I could determine after I spend an hour on the phone with a customer and I don't get the sale, what kind of attitude of mind was I going to have? Was I going to say, take the positives from that call that I spent the hour on, or was I going to sit there and like talk about, well, this lead wasn't qualified, this was a complete waste of time, they weren't going to buy anything anyway, which you can always give in to those thoughts, but you got to remember, and this was a good helper for me, is the thoughts that I let in dictated my attitude. So you just don't get mad or get upset for no reason. Everything starts with a thought, right? And then it turns into a mood, or turns into a behavior, then it turns into an action. And so I learned that on every call, no matter what, I was going to focus on something that was positive. And what was positive was my ability to work, the work ethic that I put forth. That was positive. I could always get off at every call and I say I gave it everything I got. Now, did that always end in me getting sales, right? Did that always end in me getting sales? No, but it always ended up in me having the right frame of mind and having the right attitude of mind. Okay. And so I focused on things I had control over. Did I implement call control on every single call? Yes, I did. So that was something that was positive. So I used to focus on the positives more often and frequently than I ever focused on the negatives, because it helped me with my attitude. Okay. Integrity is paramount. So selling final expense over the telephone is, you have to have integrity, right? So because the insurance company is trusting you to explain the policy, help the customer, complete a VSIG, medically underwrite the customer, right? They're trusting you to do what's right, right? If a customer qualifies for ROP based on the information that they've given you, then they're trusting you to be honest and submit the application for ROP. If the customer qualifies for immediate based on the information they've given you, they're trusting you to be honest and submit the application for immediate. Now, this may sound like wow, but believe it or not, since running this company, I've had experiences where agents did not do what was right and what was honest. Okay. And you can't tell customers to lie on the phone, right? You have to be, and so this integrity is so important to longevity in a successful sales career. Believe it or not, it will catch up with you. Okay. And so integrity is paramount. No matter what, I'm always going to do what's right, and I'm always going to be honest. And sometimes that involves you telling the customer things that are difficult for them to hear, right? Now, so when you do that, you take the blame off your shoulders, because it's not your fault. You didn't live their life. You weren't prescribed their medications. You didn't make their decisions. I mean, you don't come from their bloodline, or it's not your fault what product that they qualify for. Okay, that is something that they actually qualify for based on their current situation. So having integrity when no one's watching, doing the little things, not skipping areas in the script, Okay, not cutting corners when it comes time to building a relationship. I mean, that's having integrity to the process. If you're true to the process is going to be true to you, and it's going to show in the results that you get. And so integrity, being honest, it's constantly something that we learn you got to focus on and work with. Now, whatever it takes, this core value has really helped shape our organization, because in final expense telesales, you never know that picking up that last call at 5:30 is going to be that two-piece sale or that $1,000 deal you were looking for. And you never know, after making one bank call, you call two more banks, and on that third bank, they actually give you the account number, right? You never know that after using alpha call control over and over, the client finally just calms down and makes a decision to spend an hour and a half with you. Like, whatever it takes, it encompasses everything about sales. Like, you have to burn every bridge to get to where you want to get to, the success that you want. Right? You have to do whatever it takes, right? You may not be able to take an hour lunch because you're struggling to get talk time, right? I mean, this is the mindset. You may have to cut that down. You may not be able to start at 9:30 because you know that's not giving you enough leads for the day. So you got to go in, you got to start at 9 o'clock every day, or be logged in at 8:45. You know you can't cut out of work at 5:30 because you're not getting the production you want. So it may require you to stay until 6:30. You may not be able to take that Saturday off if you have a goal to make $6,000 this month, and you're failing to make that because you don't get the sales that you want, right? Whatever it takes to hit your goal, to achieve what you set out to do, that's the mindset of winning, right? And so whatever it takes is extremely important in final expense telesales, because you never know when the sales are going to come. You never know. And I'm a firm believer in taking it until I can't take it anymore. And I'll keep trying and keep trying and keep trying. And you'll be shocked to find out and learn that doors start to open up. Things start to become exposed for you. So be disciplined is core value number 4. Be disciplined to the sales process. Be disciplined to what you've been taught and what you've been trained, right? And you know when you lack discipline. You know when you lack discipline. But following a script, okay, is the best way to grow and develop and learn as a salesperson. That's the best way to evolve, because the script is going to allow you to build on a foundation that you've set for yourself. You can identify areas where you're coming up short. You can identify areas where you're doing well at, but being disciplined to the voice signature process, being disciplined to medically underwriting the application, being disciplined on the call to tell the same stories about someone that you lost that's been close to you, or a medical condition that you've had yourself. Being disciplined to do these things consistently is going to work into your advantage. Point the finger inward. Now, this core value has been a tremendous help for me, because it allowed me to grow and develop. And it really comes down to understanding that there's always areas of improvement that I can implement, right? So when I point the finger inward, first and foremost, I stop blaming other people, or blaming the leads, or blaming the pre-closer. And I start to work with the skill sets that I currently have. I am what I am. I talk too fast. I don't use alpha call control. I don't fight in the close. I don't want to build rapport. I mean, these are things that you have to face to say, okay, if you want to get better. And the best way to get better is to face the truth about yourself, which I used to do this when I came to work every day. I used to go to work and sit in a seat, and I used to just take leads, and I used to work. And when I'm working, okay, I'm just taking leads, doing the best I can do. I'm not thinking about, I need to improve here, I need to improve there. I'm just doing the best I have. There's a time for that. And the way I used to do it is every day after work, okay, I drove home in my car, and I used to go through every single call in my mind. It didn't take me but 20 minutes to do this. Go through the call, and I used to identify on every call, man, I should have did more of this. I should have did more of that. I should have did more of this. I should have did more of that. And at the end of all of that, I said, okay, tomorrow I had set a goal. Tomorrow I'm going to get better in this area. I'm going to get better, but not answering people's questions, no matter what. That's my goal for tomorrow. It wasn't to close 3 sales. I mean, yeah, I wanted to close sales. I mean, it wasn't to do anything else but get better with not answering people's questions. I did this every day when I was in sales, right? So I did this for years. I mean, that is discipline, right? Every day I did it. That's how I developed and grew as a salesperson. And then I used to come in the next day and I used to write down what I was going to focus on. And I used to focus on that. And I used to focus on that. And before you know it, it got to a point where I was so strong and well-rounded as a salesperson. I mean, either they were buying or they were hanging up on me, right? And I've done this throughout my whole sales career. That's why I believe in you can do any sales job if you are willing to point the finger and hold yourself accountable to the results that you get. And it's not like I was trying to tackle 10 things at one time, right? Just one thing. That's 5 things in a week. That's 20 different things in a month, right? It doesn't take long before you're able to handle. I'm not talking to my wife. I need to talk to my wife before I do anything. It doesn't take long before you're able to handle. I got to go right now. It doesn't take long. I'm shopping around. I mean, it doesn't. I don't trust. It doesn't take long before you're able to actually master when people say stuff like that to you. But you got to point the finger inward and force yourself to come up with change. Force yourself to change, right? And that's our next core value: embrace change. But you do that by holding yourself accountable and trying out different solutions, right? And then when you succeed, it becomes rewarding and it helps you have a positive mental mindset. So embrace change. I learned that if I was going to be great in sales, the person that I was today was not going to be the person I needed to be tomorrow. Right? At the core of my personality, I am whom I am, but I had to grow. I had to develop. It's just like if you become a math major, when you start off, you don't know how to do the same formulas when you do when you graduate. So you had to grow. You had to develop. If you've taken on any college education or high school education, learning how to read, learning how to ride a bike. I mean, the same techniques you were using. I taught my son how to ride a bike, but now he's riding a bike. He's using different techniques. So you have to we're always changing as people. And change can be uncomfortable, but eventually it leads to you becoming comfortable and allowing you to embrace more change. And the more change you can make, right? You don't have to be a person who's scared to tell people what to do all the time. I used to be that guy, right? I didn't want to tell nobody what to do because it was the easiest way for them to tell me no and for me to accept it, right? So I used to always ask, can you do this? Can you do that? And everybody used to tell me no, and it was very easy. But when I started telling people, because I had to conquer that fear. So that change involved me conquering that fear. And before you know it, I started telling everybody what to do. If you have experience working with me, I just tell you what to do, and I feel free and I feel great, and people do it and they get the help that they need. But I had to go through a change. I wasn't always that way. Okay, I'm not always the way I am today, but I had to challenge myself and I had to embrace these changes that were uncomfortable because I wanted something more. So if you want something more, you want to write more sales, you want to be more productive, it only comes with change. You can't keep doing the same thing over and over again and expect different results, right? And that's painful to change. And you know if you're changing or not. You know if you're getting better with handling spousal objections. You know if you're getting better in the needs section. You know if you're getting better in the takeaway section. You know if you're getting better at showing up to work on time and working a whole 9 to 6 shift. You know if you're getting better at complaining. You know if you're getting better at your job, right? So embrace change is a huge part of growth and development. Build openness and honest relationship through communication. That is key for what we do here in selling final expense life insurance over the telephone. Those relationships, when they're open and they're honest, and I'm a firm believer, they connect you to the customer. And the customer gets this deep sense inside that can't be denied that I can trust this person. So I had to learn to be as open as possible about myself, about my life, about my experiences, because that was the quickest and fastest way to establish trust. And I had to do that through communication. So I used to write my stories down, what I wanted to share with customers, what they needed to know about me. And I made sure I shared it on every single call, because if I didn't gain their trust, at the end of the call, I knew I was going to get. I'm not giving my social. I'm not giving my banking. No, I don't trust you. I don't know you. Let me shop around. Let me talk to my neighbor. Let me talk to this insurance. I mean, they come in boatloads. And it's nearly impossible to isolate and acknowledge and handle one. So building open and honest relationships up front through communication allowed for me to have an easier time closing the sale. But I had to embrace change. I had to be disciplined. I had to point the finger inward. I had to do whatever it takes. I had to have integrity. I had to have the right attitude. All of that, it was involved in me building an open, honest relationship through communication. Because what it forced me to do is pay close attention to areas that I needed to improve in. And I shared the same stories on every single call. I shared how I lost my good friend when I was younger. I shared how I lost another good friend when I was younger. I shared how I lost my grandmother. I shared how I had a medical scare. I shared medical conditions that my parents haven't had. I shared these on every single call because it's a part of life. It's real, and it makes me a real person, right? And so the more open I was, and it took time to become more open, more open, more open, okay, because you have fears, but you have to embrace change. No one starts off telling their whole life story on the first call. No, most people start off talking about the weather. They talk about the news, talk about the game last night, and then they learn that that don't work. Then they get a little more open. They may talk about their family, right? Maybe they don't give no names, no details. Then they get a little bit more open. Then they talk about their family. They give names. They give details. They get a little more open. They talk about their health. Give details. They get a little bit more open. They talk about losing someone, and before you know it, they're closing sales. Because life insurance is sold because people know they're going to die, right? Eventually you got to get to that point, right? So being an open and honest relationship through communication, embracing change, pointing the finger and be disciplined, whatever it takes, integrity is paramount, attitude is that they all encompass that build open and honest relationship through communication. And the last core value is be humble. Be humble. Now, I've worked with this because everyone has their own understanding of what it means to be humble. But I can see that everybody like to judge everybody else like, oh, he ain't humble, he ain't humble, he ain't humble, he ain't humble. But no one knows if the person really believes they're being humble or not, right? I mean, we all have a definition of that. But that's according to your own conscience. You know when you're being arrogant and you know when you're not. And the goal is to work to be humble more often than none, right? And it's simple things. A lot of people, they have success, they don't take any credit for it, you know. And then you have people who have success and they take all the credit because they worked extremely hard for it. But then the guy who doesn't take any credit going to judge the other guy like he ain't humble. He's supposed to give credit to anybody else. But it don't work like that. That's because it's different for everyone. You know when you're denying yourself. You know when you're being humble. You know, it has nothing to do with other people. It has everything to do with you. Are you coachable, right? Are you dependable? I mean, that has a lot to do with being humble, right? Someone gives you some advice and have you implement it, and then you're like, no, I ain't doing it. Even though they've worked hard, they've sacrificed, they paid a price, they put countless hours, sleepless nights, and they give you a solution, but you got to go a different way. You may take a little from them, and that's being humble, but then you may be able to take it all from them, and that's a different degree of being humble. And then you can implement it. So being coachable, being dependable, knowing when you make a commitment and sticking to that commitment, right? That has everything to do with being humble because you're considering other people, right? That they're counting on you based on your word, based on what you gave. I mean, it takes small thoughts to follow through on small stuff like that. So this core value of being humble, it encompasses everything that we do. We depend on each other. We count on each other. Your word is all you have. When you can stick to your word, I mean, that says a lot about a person, right? Because you consider other people, and you consider other people, that's a sign of you having humility, right? Thinking about the others before you think about yourself. That's being humble. So being humble, each and every single one of you this call have an understanding of what it means to be humble. But the goal is to focus on how can I do it better each and every day. And that's why these core values are essential to the success that eFund Insurance has had over the last 10 years. So I encourage you to challenge yourself and learn the core values. They are a part of my life. You've dealt with me, you've talked to me, you've seen me, you've experienced me. Now you understand that these core values have helped shape me. That's all I got for you today. Happy selling to each and every single one of you. Thanks for tuning in and learning about eFund Insurance core values.